The problem with accounting firms hiring some accounting talent is they get them through the door, but they lose them almost immediately, or they only didn't even get them through the door. And it's all about onboarding. Jeff Phillips, do accounting firms get this right, or is it an area for error?
It's an area for error and improvement, but if you get it right, it dramatically increases engagement of employees and it dramatically reduces turnover of accountants.
It
Rob.
seems so obvious, doesn't it? Onboarding them, welcoming through the door, come on in, the water's lovely, come and join us for a swim, whatever analogy you want to give that. I can't believe firms get this wrong.
They get it wrong because it's hard, Rob. I started a job that I was really excited about 11 or 12 years ago, and the job was out of town. And on my first day of the job, they bought me a plane ticket, and I flew up to the office at this headquarters where I was working. And I showed up, and nobody knew that I was supposed to be there. And I spent the entire day on the sofa in the lobby. I didn't last long in that job. It actually led me to starting Accountingfly because it was such a lousy experience. So I want to save firms from creating similar experiences.
Well, let's hope we can do that today. What's the big problem we're trying to solve here then ultimately, Jeff? We always start with that, don't we?
We're trying to prevent employees from becoming dissatisfied quickly, and we're trying to increase productivity, engagement, and team trust right off the bat with great onboarding.
And just thinking of that critical first 90 days or first 5 minutes, there's something called buyer's remorse, isn't there? We know this from the sales world, where you're thinking, have I made the right move? Am I in the right place? Have I done this for the right reasons? Are these the right people? What have I done? So there's all of that going on in the candidate's mind once they've said yes and they show up for work, right?
Yes. Every major decision comes with buyer's remorse, including selecting a job. So you have to see it from their point of view. Rob, I found a fascinating report. It was a few years ago, but it said knowledge workers leave their jobs in the first 6 months for 3 reasons. One is they aren't clear what their job is. Number 2 is the second most popular reason was they did not have what they needed to do their job effectively. And number 3, the third most popular reason why they left their job within 6 months is they were lonely and they did not feel engaged from their team. So a really good onboarding system addresses those 3 issues right off the bat.
Let's hear those again then, Jeff. So every successful new hire onboarding process should accomplish 3 objectives. Just articulate those for us again.
Yeah, so the 3 objectives address the 3 reasons why people have that tremendous buyer's remorse, right? So we want them to be crystal clear on the vision of the company and how their job connects to where the company is going.
And I guess that includes what results they need to be achieving, what they're going to be working on.
Yes, and that's where I want to dive in and spend some time on this first episode on onboarding there. But the 2 other ones are, you got to know what your job is. But the second one is they need to have what they need in order to do their job effectively. So we've got to equip them. We've got to check in and make sure they have what they need and have a good plan for that. And thirdly, we want to make sure they engage with their team and with the people around them quickly, especially if you're in a hybrid or remote environment where I think there's even more pitfalls than inside an office.
So in this episode, we've set this up. We're going to look at what great onboarding looks and sounds and feels like. We're going to turn to best practice. So where did we start with this, Jeff? I guess they've got to know what their job is, why they've signed up, why they've been hired.
Yes. So I want to focus on very early on, and we'll spend time talking about objective 1. Do they have a vision? Do they understand what their job is? And we'll cover the other 2 the next time.
So we're going to make this a 2-parter. This is episode 1, onboarding part 1. Go ahead.
Yeah. And Rob, Accountingfly has a great onboarding checklist that has these resources, and I'd like to include a link to that. It's something our viewers can download in the show notes and use it for themselves. Great. But let's talk about the first steps. They know what their job is, what's expected of them, and what results they needed are to be achieved for this to be a win. So your mindset as a hiring leader is, I don't want you to come in on your first day and sit the entire day on the couch like I did. And this is not a day for paperwork either. This is a day in the first few days of a new hire's experience. This is to reinforce the idea of why they did this. So I want to start with hearing from you, the leader. And this is probably an all-day meeting or a multi-hour meeting where you, whether it's the owner of a company, partner in a firm, owner of a firm, or a hiring manager, they need to hear from someone that is senior in the business about your vision for where this firm is going, where this team is going, about how this position fits into that, and how the company works. This needs to happen early, and I advise firm owners to do this on day one, and even prep that leading up to the call with or that start day with multiple meetings talking about the vision for the firm. We need to have plenty of time to have this conversation, but this is a one-on-one, giving some history of the company, where we're going, and how this job fits into it. And the language, the way you want to communicate that is, what are the results? What are the numbers that the company's needle needs to move forward because this job exists? And I think you should supplement that conversation with a written statement that summarizes what we're talking about: the vision of the company, the vision of the team, the vision of the role, and the results that ought to happen. Rob, I'm a big fan of the book
Yeah.
E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. And they talk about strategic objectives and writing down where the company is going and how the teams and the individuals within the team support that. So this is a conversation and a written document summarizing that. And we're going to go through it, in that meeting in great detail with one another, because I want them to walk out of that meeting so fired up about where this company is going, where this firm is going, and how this team supports that mission, that they get on an emotional level from you, the leader, where we're going.
And I'm just hearing some recruiters, bosses, managers, leaders, partners saying, well, I already did this at interview. We've already sold them on the firm. We already told them where we were going. We already laid out the vision. That's why they signed up. That's why they said yes. That's why they left their last job. Let's just get them in and roll the sleeves up and get them doing something. Am I wrong there?
Would you take on a new client and not have an onboarding process and just begin the work? Absolutely not. You're going to reinforce the client's decision to go with you. It's a ceremony, but it's absolutely essential. And taking it back to your question about the interviews, this is a high anxiety time for the company or the firm and the employee. They're worried about performing in the interview. They're not paying so much attention to the sales pitch, although they should be, and you should be selling. This is a time for a business meeting to lay out where we are going. Take a day out of your life to protect the investment that you just made. Chances are you paid a recruiter to bring this talent to you. Now you're shelling out money for the hire. We don't want to lose this. So start it on the right track with a positive meeting. Finish the day with a dinner with the new hire and the team they're around. And it's all about vision. I mean, the leader's job is to be the vision cheerleader for the team or for the company. We've got to get them buy-in on an emotional and deep level connected to that on day
And when
one.
you said emotional there, the thing that struck me was relationships. You want to connect them to people. You want to introduce them to people. You want as many people as possible to know and use their name in the first few hours, don't they? So that they already feel part of the family. Is that over-egging it? Is that too emotional?
Not at all. In fact, remember the third reason why knowledge workers leave jobs early is they don't feel connected. So we're gonna as we go through this checklist, and part of it will be the next session. I have a plan that I recommend for how, when they show up on day one, they're already emotionally connected with the other people on the team. But this is about, can I emotionally connect with the leader's vision and where this company is going? Because the other people on the team should know that as well. And so this is, now we have a common language that we can spend time talking about how we accomplish the mission.
And this is their first taste of your culture, isn't it? Presumably, they've seen it from the outside. They've asked questions about it. You've tried to articulate it from your side of the desk in the hiring process, but now they step into the cauldron, don't they? They start to taste the soup. So how do we imbue that culture early doors?
Hopefully you've been describing the culture of the firm before and during the recruiting process, but you're going to then reinforce that with in the vision of the firm is how we work and how it feels to work here and what you should expect and what to do if there's issues. One of my big pieces of this first meeting is, let's establish how we work together. How does this company do the knowledge work that we're accomplishing? I want you to establish when you will have tactical check-ins so that you, the leader, can answer questions for tactical day-to-day guidance. And then establish when you'll have more strategic check-ins. This onboarding interview is to reinforce the hire, their excitement for the hire, but also lay the groundwork for what's to come. So tactical check-ins should be scheduled. We want to establish the foundation for how we're going to communicate with one another. What are the expectations you need from your hire about delivering work and about communicating? What do we use? What's the cadence? Do we use Teams and Slack when we're processing through work? Do we use a project management system? So we want to talk vision, we want to talk culture, and we want to talk technical. There might be room during training for more, you press this button when you're delivering this piece of work. But this is about the philosophy of how we work so that we start the day with clear expectations. One other thing, Rob, I think is so important in this first meeting is to give them a list of people who to contact, who owns the areas of responsibility for different pieces within the firm. People don't need to be asking you questions or shouldn't be frustrated finding out, how do we put paper in the printer, or how do I get my remote office set up? Like, who are the people that own these pieces? It'd be great if there was already a checklist that they own so that they are welcoming the new hire, making them feel taken care of. But let's tell them, here's the teammates, here's who you need to get to know if you haven't already, and here's who owns what. This is a sheet of paper they need to walk away with that meeting with so that they know who to call when they have questions for things.
It's been a while since I was employed, having been an entrepreneur for so long. But back in the days when I was a school teacher and had a couple of different schools, there's so many questions you've got when you land. And there's questions you come up with that come from another question. And one thing leads to another, and you don't know exactly where to go to or who to go, whether it's a stupid question or it's a really smart question, and whether it's written down somewhere, and whether it's in a schedule or a policies and procedures document somewhere. You don't know what you don't know.
Looking for your competitive edge in a talent shortage? In today's accounting world, talent is everything, but finding it, that's tough. Enter Toa Global, our partners for this podcast. With over 10 years of exclusive accounting staffing experience, they've helped more than 1,100 firms boost their capacity, expand service offerings, and save big on staffing costs. How big? How about up to 66%? Toa Global brings you skilled, pre-vetted talent who integrate seamlessly with your local team. Whether it's bookkeeping or specialized tax roles, Toa Global provides the muscle you need to thrive. So you want to stay competitive in this talent shortage? Visit toaglobal.com for your free consultation today. That's toaglobal.com.
They are walking into a strange land, and this first impression is everything. You either look like you have your act together or you look like you don't. And
and they want to make a great impression. That's an excellent point. They want to do well, don't they? They want to succeed. They want some quick wins.
They do, and so we're going to establish how we get those quick wins in this vision and tactical meeting where we're going to lay it all out. I mean, it's really about overcoming the buyer's remorse that happens, because if it's in today's market, they weren't just talking to your firm, they were talking to 6 others, and they chose you for whatever reason, and you got to hold on to them. And so the leader's job is to continually go back to the vision and remind them. It's going to take multiple times to remind them where we're going. But remember, the number one reason people leave knowledge jobs is because they don't know what their job is. It's that basic. Are you clear on what your job is? This is a question I want you asking every single time you see the new hire, because the chances are they will lose that clarity after the influx of emails and requests, and it gets bogged down really quickly. Are you clear with what your job is? Are you clear with the team's mission? Let's go back to the team mission. This is something in writing they will have from you on day one. They can paste it to their monitor. They can put it on their desk. I want them seeing that. I want you rehearsing and repeating it over and over again. This is going to create alignment, and it doesn't happen overnight, but if you start on the right foot, it creates so much momentum.
That's brilliant. And I'm just thinking of the unspoken rules, the things that don't get put into a checklist or a book, that maybe Brenda on the reception or the front desk has been there 30 years and she knows everyone and all the little peccadillos and all of the idiosyncrasies and all the office politics. What do we do with stuff like that? That tacit knowledge, if you like, that's inside people's heads that can really make people feel like they belong.
we're going to have to introduce them to Linda on day one, right?
Linda or Brenda.
And that should be Brenda, Linda, that we're going to have, and it should be in the sheet of who owns areas of responsibility and who is the catch-all for the different questions that we have. Culture is an unwritten thing anyway inside a workforce. And so it's so important in this vision conversation, Rob, to explain how we work. You've done it during the interview. Chances are they forgot because they were interviewing with other firms. So let's reinforce that again. It may feel like you're repeating the same thing over and over again. You're not. You're training your staff on how they're going to work and how they're going to accomplish the objectives you set forth for them.
This is great, Jeff. Let's just wrap this up. What problem have we been addressing today? It's those critical first few days, moments, touch points when a new hire steps through your office or attends their first remote Zoom meeting, and you've got to get them involved in that community very quickly and get them bought into the stuff that you're doing. So just wrap up for us. What are the key elements here in this first stage of it?
Right. And this is why we're doing 2 episodes, because this is so important that the very first thing we do with remote or in-office accountants is that we help them understand what is the mission, who are we, and what is your role in this. It addresses the number one reason why people leave. I don't know what my job is. That sounds so basic. But if that is the number one reason why people leave knowledge jobs, then we are failing to communicate that. So forget the paperwork, forget filling out forms. Don't let people sit on the couch for 8 hours. Bring them into the senior-most person in the team that can meet with a new hire. Hopefully it's the owner of the business or the CEO, and describe for them where we're going together and what role you will play in it. It will reinforce their decision to join you. It will create momentum. It will address a lot of the technical little frustrations that tend to pop up, and it sets the tone for every future conversation that you and other teammates will have, because it creates alignment from minute one.
Fantastic. And is there anyone in the firm that should own this, Jeff, as we close this off? Is it one person or is it spread across a team?
Great question. There must be an owner for the onboarding process. If no one owns it, or if multiple people own it, no one will take responsibility for it. In a small firm, it's going to be the owner probably, Rob. But if you have an office manager, if you have a strong operations manager, it should be them. In a large firm, it's the hiring manager or the HR. Somebody needs to own the checklist that these things happen and that they are talking to the senior-most person that's appropriate for the organization you're in.
So we've set this off on up and running now about great onboarding. Just teasers for this second episode, Jeff, this part 2 on this onboarding. What have we got coming up?
Yeah, you can't do one or the other. You got to do both. And so the other piece is, how do we get them clear on giving them the second biggest objective, giving what they need to do their job well, and how do we get them connected to the team so that they stay? This will reduce turnover. It will reduce friction. It will reduce frustration for the hiring person and the new hire as well.
Jeff Phillips of Accountingfly and Padgett Business Services. It's so good to have somebody that's on the front line with this in so many different ways, speaking sense into something that accounting firms crazily get wrong, but it could so easily make such a difference. First impressions count. Thank you, Jeff Phillips.
Thank you.